This happened about a month ago. I was a single mom. I had just moved to the end of a cul-de-sac with my 2 kids, Chloe and Max. I thought a new house would help us start fresh after my husband left. The neighborhood seemed nice. The houses looked well kept, and the neighbors waved as I unpacked boxes. I really thought everything would be okay. The first night was rough. Chloe and Max wouldn't sleep in their rooms. They kept whispering about strange noises in the walls and shadows moving around. I tried to calm them down. I told them it was just their imagination. Kids often make things up when they're scared, right? I did not think much of it then. But as days turned to weeks, they didn't get better. I caught them drawing pictures of dark figures. My stomach turned every time I saw those drawings. They talked about friends, but no kids had come to visit yet. I watched their eyes fill with fear. I felt helpless. Every night I noticed odd things happening. I would find my things moved an inch or 2. Lights flickered like they were trying to tell me something. I felt a chill when those shadows in the corners grew longer. It couldn't just be my imagination. I was worried. I began to doubt myself as a mom. Was it the house? Maybe I chose the wrong place. I thought of moving again. But then I felt guilty for even thinking that. Chloe and Max needed stability after everything we went through. One evening at the dining table, Chloe said, "Mommy, do you think our friends are happy?" I froze. "What friends?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Max looked scared too. They both knew something I didn't, and that made my heart race. That night, the lights flickered more than usual. I kind of felt the shadows watching me. I tried to shake it off. Maybe I was reading too much into it. But it was hard to ignore the whispers from the walls. I would close my eyes and listen, just hoping it was my imagination. As I lay awake, I felt cold. I wondered what my kids knew. Then, just before I drifted off, I heard what sounded like a child's voice whispering through the walls. It was soft, but clear. The next night, I got up to check on them. Their rooms were empty. My heart dropped. "Where are you?" I asked into the dark, but got no answer. My palms were sweaty. I walked to Chloe's room and felt drawn to her drawings on the floor. It seemed I could almost hear the whispers again if I listened hard enough. I felt a swirl of emotions. Fear, confusion, sadness. It all mixed together, knotting in my stomach. I wanted to scream for help, but I didn't know who to scream to. I didn't want to scare the kids. What was happening to us? I stood there, waiting for a response, hoping my children would come home. The silence grew heavier. I was left wondering if I was losing my mind, or if something was very wrong with our new home. The next morning, I woke up in a panic. The kids were still missing from their rooms. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I rushed downstairs, my heart racing with every step. I found Chloe and Max sitting on the living room floor, their eyes wide, glued to the wall. "Mommy?" Chloe shouted, her tiny finger pointing. I turned to look. There was nothing except the bare walls. "There's someone there!" Max cried. My chest tightened at their words. I approached cautiously. "What do you see?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. They exchanged a glance, clearly frightened. Max shook his head, but Chloe spoke up. "He's really sad. He wants to talk to you, Mommy." The hair on the back of my neck prickled. I forced a smile, hoping to break their fear. "There's no one there, sweetie. It's just the wall." But deep down I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. Chloe shook her head. "No, Mommy. He's waiting. He's lonely." I couldn't help but wonder who she was talking about. Why did they keep mentioning this dark figure? Was I doing something wrong? Should I have listened to them more carefully? I decided it was time for answers. I needed to learn about this place. I walked to the front door and opened it, noticing the neighbors tending to their yards. Maybe they knew something. I took a deep breath and approached Susan, the woman from next door who had waved at me the day I moved in. "Hi, Susan," I said. "I was wondering if you knew anything about the history of this neighborhood." Her eyes widened slightly, but then she gave me a polite smile. "Oh, it's nice here, I assure you. Families come and go, but we all seem to get along just fine. Anything unusual happen? Like with the houses?" I pressed, searching for something in her expression. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Not really. Just the usual things. Old houses sometimes have their quirks." I nodded, feeling frustrated. I needed more than that. As I started back toward my house, I spotted a small book lying on the ground a few feet away from my porch. It looked worn and forgotten. I picked it up and noticed it was a journal. Flipping through its pages, I gasped. The words were jumbled, but I read a name, Thomas, followed by phrases that made my heart race. Lost, friends, and forever. I glanced back toward Susan, who had continued her chatter with another neighbor. My pulse quickened. Who was Thomas? And why was this journal here? Then everything snapped into place. I hadn't noticed the resemblance before. Thomas must be the friend Chloe and Max had been talking about. My skin tingled as I realized there was much more to this house than I'd thought. That's when I heard it. A soft, familiar voice threaded through the air like an echoing memory. 2 words chilling me to the bone. "Help me." I froze, the journal nearly slipping from my grasp. My heart raced, and fear surged through me. I couldn't shake the idea that whatever was happening in this house was connected to the children and their new friend. I had to uncover the truth before it was too late. I stumbled back into the house, my mind racing with what I had just heard. The words, "help me," echoed in my ears, drowning out the mundane sounds of the neighborhood. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I couldn't let fear consume me, especially when the kids were involved. I glanced at Chloe and Max, who were still sitting on the floor. Their faces were pale, the earlier excitement from finding the journal now replaced by uncertainty. I knelt beside them. "What did you see, honey?" I asked Chloe gently. "The man," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He's sad and needs you, Mommy." Max hugged his knees. "I don't like him. He's scary." Their fear was palpable, and I felt a stab of panic rise within me. I needed to protect them, but how could I do that when I didn't even understand what we were dealing with? I glanced at the journal still clutched tightly in my hands. "Let's read this together," I suggested, hoping it would distract them. They nodded, and we made our way to the kitchen table. As I opened the book again, I noticed more phrases that sent chills down my spine. Trapped, whispers in the night, and never left. I swallowed hard as I read, my voice steady despite the dread building inside me. "This Thomas, he sounds like he was really lonely," I said softly, glancing at my children. "Do you think he might be stuck here?" Chloe nodded. "He doesn't have anybody to play with." I couldn't help but wonder how 2 small children could sense something I couldn't. My gaze drifted toward the window, where a shadow moved just outside the curtains. My heart leapt, and I quickly stood, expecting to see a neighbor. But there was nothing. Just then, I remembered Susan's words. Strange occurrences, old houses, quirks. My resolve hardened. I couldn't leave this to chance. Whatever it was that was calling to my children, I had to confront it. I decided we would explore the house, 1 room at a time. I grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and motioned for the kids to follow me. They hesitated for a moment, but then joined me, clutching each other's hands tightly. As we ventured from room to room, each shadow felt more menacing. The air was thick with an electric tension. "Is Thomas in here?" Chloe whispered as we entered the musty attic. Suddenly the temperature dropped and the light flickered. I felt a presence behind me. "Mommy, I'm scared." Max's tiny voice quivered beside me. Before I could reassure him, something brushed against my arm. I spun around, the flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Then I saw it, a pair of small glowing eyes staring back at us from the corner of the attic. My breath hitched. "What do you want?" I called, my voice shaking. The eyes blinked, and I heard again, louder this time. "Help me." The air grew heavy with sorrow, and I realized the last thing I wanted to do was turn away from this dark figure. But what if it was all just in my head? I couldn't let my children suffer because of my fears. I took a hesitant step forward, but a sudden crash echoed from below, rattling the walls. The sound shattered the tension like glass. "What was that?" Max cried, his grip tightening on Chloe. I didn't have the answer, but I knew we had to face whatever lay ahead. I glanced back at the glowing eyes, the sadness within them reflected in my own heart. "Stay close, kids," I said firmly, shivering at the thought of what might come next. I had to uncover the truth, no matter how frightening it was. And in that moment, I understood. This was just the beginning. I took a deep breath and steeled myself. The attic felt heavier now, almost suffocating as we stood there, the whisper of the voice echoing in my mind. I turned back to the children. "We need to see what that noise was," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. Max nodded but didn't let go of Chloe's hand. They both looked up at me, eyes wide and frightened. "Can we just go back downstairs?" Max whispered. "No, sweetie, we have to check it out," I replied, pushing down the panic rising in my chest. I couldn't let them see how scared I really was. We carefully made our way down the creaky stairs, the flashlight beam trembling in my hand. As we stepped into the hallway, the air felt different, charged. I shined the light toward the living room, where the noise had come from. Then I saw it. The front door stood ajar, swinging slightly on its hinges, as if someone had just left in a hurry. My heart raced. I took a cautious step forward and called out, "Hello? Is someone there?" My voice wavered, echoing back at me. No response. Only silence. "Mommy, I don't like this," Chloe whispered, her small voice trembling. I could feel her fear wrapping around me like a cold blanket. "Let's check the door," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I moved closer, praying it wasn't ajar because someone had entered. I hesitated before pushing it the rest of the way open. The night air rushed in, carrying a chill that sent shivers down my spine. I glanced back at the kids, but they were rooted in place, their eyes fixed on the street outside. I pulled them closer, shielding them from whatever lay beyond. As we stood there, a faint whisper drifted through the air. "Help me." I felt it again, settling deep in my bones. There was something intense and desperate about that plea. Was it Thomas? I stepped outside, scanning the quiet street. The moonlight illuminated neighboring houses, casting long shadows, but there was no sign of anyone. I heard a soft rustling in the bushes at the side of our yard. I squinted, trying to see clearly, but it could have just been the wind. "Mommy, I want to go inside," Max whimpered. "Okay, let's go inside," I said, squeezing their hands tightly. The last thing I wanted was to expose them to whatever fear was lurking outside. Once inside, I closed the door and locked it. The weight of silence pressed down on us once again. I paced the floor, trying to process everything that had happened. Then I remembered the journal, I hurried back to the kitchen and opened it again, flipping through the pages hurriedly. I needed answers. I needed to know what I was dealing with. And then I found it. A page I hadn't read before. It was filled with notes, strange symbols, and a sharp drawing of a house that looked eerily similar to ours. My blood ran cold as I noticed one detail, a stick figure resembling a child, with hollow eyes. That's when I saw it. I gasped, the drawing shifting my perspective completely. It wasn't just a lonely spirit. This Thomas, whoever he was, had been trying to reach out. Just then, I heard a loud thump from upstairs, followed by the unmistakable sound of a child's laughter echoing through the halls. My heart raced as I turned to my children, who looked equally terrified and curious. "Mom!" Chloe said, stepping toward the stairs. "I think someone's up there." "No!" I shouted, my fear igniting. "We have to stay here." But they were already moving, driven by a mix of terror and curiosity. I reached out for them, but it was too late. They dashed down the hallway. I followed, knowing we were no longer just exploring. We were now seeking what had come alive in our home. I could not let this continue without understanding the danger. As I reached the foot of the stairs, my breath caught in my throat. The laughter echoed again, carrying an unfamiliar tone, one that made my blood run cold. Someone, or something, was in the house. I charged up the stairs, the sound of the children's laughter ringing in my ears like a sinister melody. It echoed off the walls, bouncing around us, making it hard to tell where it was coming from. Was it playful, or was it mocking? My stomach twisted as I reached for the banister, feeling its cool touch ground me for a moment. "Chloe! Max!" I called, my voice shaking. "Come back! Please!" The second floor was dark. Shadows clung to every corner. The laughter faded, replaced by silence. My heart pounded in my chest. I swept my flashlight across the hallway, illuminating the doors lining either side. It felt like they were watching me, each one a mystery waiting to be unlocked. Before I could take another step, I noticed something. One of the doors ajar, creaking softly as if inviting me in. That was their room. My mind raced with worry. What if they were in there? I pushed the door open slowly, apprehensively. To my shock, the room was empty. The beds were neatly made. Toys lay untouched on the floor. But in the corner stood something that sent a chill down my spine. A small doll, its eyes wide and unblinking. It looked like it had been placed there deliberately, its porcelain face frozen in a smile that felt far too knowing. I stepped back, the air thickening around me. "Where are you?" I whispered, fear creeping into my voice. My heart thudded louder, as if it were warning me. That's when the laughter returned, clearer now, a shrill giggle that echoed through the hallway. I turned instinctively toward the sound. It was coming from the bathroom door just down the hall. I rushed towards it, dread settling in my stomach. "Guys!" I called again. My footsteps echoed with fear. The door was slightly open, a sliver of darkness peeking through. I hesitated for a moment, the weight of my thoughts almost immobilizing. Should I really do this? But in that moment I could hear them. Chloe's voice, soft and pleading. "Stop it, Thomas! Don't!" I froze. Thomas? Who was Thomas? I pushed down the panic and swung the door wide open. The bathroom was dark, cloaked in shadows. I flicked the flashlight beam across the room, illuminating the sink and the bathtub. My breath caught when I saw what was in the tub. A dark puddle, as if someone had spilled ink all over the porcelain. There was something floating in it, something pale. I leaned closer, horrified. It was a drawing, a crumpled piece of paper sailing in the murky water, similar to the one in the journal. But in this one, I could see more than just a crude sketch. It depicted the same stick figure with hollow eyes, surrounded by what looked like storm clouds. Then I heard it, a soft fluttering sound coming from behind me. I spun around, my heart racing. The door slammed shut with a loud bang, sealing my breath in my throat. "Mommy!" Chloe's voice broke through. "We're scared." My heart sank as I fumbled at the door, yanking on the handle. "I'm coming!" I shouted, panic rising. The door didn't budge. With every ounce of strength I had, I threw myself against it. But the door held firm. The laughter morphed into something sinister, filling the small space around me. I felt a presence closing in, an icy breath on the back of my neck. "Help me," a voice echoed, distant yet so familiar. In that instant, I realized I wasn't just searching for them. I was being drawn into something I couldn't fully understand. I had to get to them before it was too late. And then everything went dark. I gasped as light exploded back into my vision. The bathroom was gone. Instead, I stood in a thick mist, surrounded by a dense fog that swallowed everything around me. I blinked hard, trying to make sense of it. Panic surged through me. Where was I? Where were my children? My breath came out in sharp bursts. "Chloe! Max!" I yelled. The fog distorted my voice, sending it spiraling away. No response. I turned in slow circles, desperately searching for anything that could anchor me. Then I saw it. A flicker of light through the mist ahead. Like a beacon, it pulsed, drawing me in. I hurried toward it, the ground beneath my feet feeling unsteady. The laughter returned, soft and insistent, echoing all around me, twirling like ribbons of sound in the fog. "Mommy!" It was Chloe's voice again, but it seemed layered with something. Faint whispers weaving in and out like an old song. "Mommy, help us." They were close. I could feel it. I pushed forward, stumbling but moving, my fear igniting my determination. As I approached the light, it expanded, revealing a clearing. The mist pulled back just enough for me to make out shapes. A small playground, eerily familiar. It looked just like the one in our neighborhood. "Chloe! Max!" I called again, scanning the area frantically. Laughter erupted, crystal clear yet warped, like a record skipping. A chill crept down my spine. The swings moved, swaying without any wind. I took a cautious step closer, heart racing. That's when I noticed something on the ground. 5 drawings scattered haphazardly in front of the swing set. I knelt to pick one up. My heart sank as I saw it was yet another interpretation of that stick figure. But this time, its eyes seemed to follow me, deep and hollow, as if they held endless secrets. "No," I whispered, backing away. A wave of dizziness washed over me and I stumbled. "Mommy, you have to come play," a voice called out, clearer now. A flash of movement caught my eye. I turned, breath hitching. There they were. Chloe and Max stood at the edge of the playground, their silhouettes illuminated by an ethereal glow. "Play?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to get out of here." The children giggled, the sound turning into a shrill chorus that echoed off the trees. It warped and twisted, wrapping around me like a blanket of dread. "Join us, Mommy!" Max shouted, his innocent face twisted into something unnerving. My heart raced. They were too close, yet something was off. The way they stood, it was like they were not entirely themselves. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a game. "Chloe! Max! Come here!" I stepped forward, my instincts screaming at me to grab them and run. But they didn't move. A dark shadow loomed behind them suddenly, indistinct and moving. "Help us, Mommy!" Chloe's voice lost its sweetness, morphing into something more frantic. I blinked, and in that moment, The playground exploded with life. Swings flew higher, laughter echoed louder, and the shadows shifted closer to them, casting an ominous presence over the scene. Then everything stopped. The laughter vanished, replaced by a deafening silence. The playground faded, and I felt an overwhelming darkness closing in again. Just before the world went black, I heard another voice echo in the depths of my mind, chilling me to the bone. They belonged to us now. I blinked again, the darkness submitting to a dim light. I lay on the ground, shivering as I pushed myself up. The fog had thickened once more, rolling in heavy tendrils that obscured my view. My heart raced as I tried to gather my thoughts. "Chloe? Max?" I called out, my voice hoarse and trembling. Nothing but silence answered. It felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. I turned in a slow circle, the paranoia creeping back. The drawings were gone. The playground was gone. But an unsettling presence lingered, a sensation that I was being watched. I stumbled forward, kicking something soft. I bent down, surprised to find a stuffed bunny, a faded pink one with a missing ear. It was Chloe's favorite. I clutched it tightly, feeling a spark of hope. Maybe I was close. "Where are you guys?" I whispered, clutching the bunny tighter. "Please just show yourselves." As if in response, the mist parted slightly, and I caught a glimpse of a larger shape. Something tall, dark, and looming at the edge of my vision. It felt wrong. My instinct screamed at me to flee. But before I could move, the eerie laughter resumed, echoing through the fog. "Mommy, come play with us," a voice chimed. But it didn't sound like Chloe or Max. My heart rushed as I realized it was deeper, distorted, as if mocking their voices. "Get away from my kids!" I shouted. I didn't care how irrational I sounded. The laughter echoed louder, almost deafening now, and the ground seemed to vibrate beneath me. I could feel something shifting, something alive hidden in the folds of the mist. My fear surged, making me dizzy. Then from the haze, I saw them again, Chloe and Max. But this time they were distorted, their faces wavering between joy and anguish. "Mommy!" they cried, their arms reaching out. "Please!" I begged. "Distance yourselves from whatever that is." But they didn't retreat. Their expressions twisted as something dark slithered closer, hovering behind them. It became apparent. It was a figure, wearing a grotesque smile, its eyes deep wells of nothingness. "Join us," it said, and my blood ran cold. I could see the children starting to fade into the shadow behind them. "No!" I screamed, my voice raw. I lunged forward, desperate. "Chloe! Max!" But in that instant everything shifted again. The ground gave way and I was falling into a dark abyss. The laughter morphed into screams, sharp and piercing, as the darkness swallowed me whole. And just when I thought I would lose consciousness, the world shifted again. I landed hard on a cold surface, gasping for air, heart pounding as the shadows receded. I looked around, dizzy and disoriented. The world was shifting again. It wasn't just fog. Shapes materialized. I was in a dimly lit room filled with toys and familiar objects. Everything was familiar, yet off. And that's when I saw it. The flickering light of a television showing home videos. I stumbled over, drawn to it. On the screen there were Chloe and Max playing, their laughter sounding pure and untainted. But the background was suffocated in shadow as distorted figures loomed behind them. My heart sunk. I needed answers. I needed to protect them. Not just from whatever was dragging me into this nightmare, but from something far more insidious, lurking in the corners of our lives. Then without warning, the screen flickered and the voices stopped. A whisper crawled from the depths of the dark. "They are ours to keep." The room trembled, and I reached for the door. There was no way I was staying here any longer. I had to find my children. I flung the door open, heart racing. The hallway stretched out before me, dimly lit. Flashes of distorted memories flickered at the edges of my mind. I could still hear the whispers, tantalizing and taunting. They are ours. It echoed in my ears, refusing to fade. The air felt heavy with a presence that buzzed against my skin. I peered around the corner, trying to catch a glimpse into the dark abyss outside. Shadows danced, but nothing moved. I knew I couldn't wait. Chloe and Max needed me. I stepped into the hallway, the old wood creaking beneath my feet. Each sound felt amplified, a reminder that I was not alone. I could feel that presence lurking, as if I had awakened something. "Please let them be okay," I murmured, gripping the bunny tighter, its soft fur offering little comfort. With each step, I imagined their faces, the way they would run to me with laughter in their eyes. But the memory of the laughter I'd heard earlier twisted my stomach. I didn't know if I would be seeing joy or despair when I found them. On instinct, I turned toward the staircase. I hesitated, listening. Then I heard it, a faint sound like a child calling out. My pulse quickened. It wasn't just in my head. I darted up the stairs, desperate to follow the sound. I reached a landing that led to several closed doors. I tested the handle of the nearest one. Locked. "Chloe! Max!" I called, panic creeping in. I tried another door. Locked again. My breath quickened and frustration bubbled inside me. They had to be here. The sound came again, softer this time, but unmistakably them. I followed it to the end of the hallway. The last door stood slightly ajar, a sliver of light seeping through. I pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the room looked like a child's playroom, yet everything felt wrong. The walls were covered in old newspaper clippings and drawings, twisted images that made my skin crawl. A nursery rhyme played softly in the background, its melody distorted, just like the figures in the videos. I felt the air grow colder, and with it, the sense of dread returned. A weighty cloud that accused me of failing to protect them. My eyes darted around the room, searching for them among the chaos. Then I saw it. At the far corner, a shadow shifted. I squinted and moved closer. My heart stopped. It wasn't just Chloe and Max. They were sitting in the middle of the room, surrounded by toys that looked strangely out of place. But there was something horrifying in their expressions. They were no longer distorted silhouettes from before. They were real. Yet their eyes were vacant, as if looking through me instead of at me. "Mommy?" They whispered together, their voices chillingly hollow. The air grew thick with something unspeakable. I took a step closer, desperate to touch them, when a loud bang echoed through the room. The door slammed shut behind me. My heart dropped. I was trapped. That's when I saw it. Dark, looming figures creeping closer. Panic surged within me, and I knew I had to act fast. "Get away from them!" I shouted, rage igniting a fire within. But the figures only laughed. "They're ours now," they chanted. Suddenly I felt a surge of fury coursing through me. I couldn't let them take my children. I would fight. My heart raced as I faced the looming figures. They cloaked themselves in shadows, their movements unnervingly fluid. I had to focus. My children were right there, lost in whatever nightmare this place had become. "Chloe! Max!" I called again, but my voice trembled, barely disguising the dread pooling in my stomach. The figures moved closer, the laughter echoing in the room, each cackle twisting like a knife. I could feel their coldness seep into the air, chilling me to the bone. I took a step forward, heart pounding. "You can't have them! They're mine!" My own words sounded foreign, laced with disbelief. Their vacant gazes and the eerie lullaby continued, dragging me into a darkness I never wanted to embrace. "Mommy," Chloe echoed, but it sounded distant, barely breaking through the haze of their eyes. My courage surged again. I wouldn't let these things claim them without a fight. I reached for a nearby toy, an old rusted train engine, its wheels caked in dust. It felt heavy in my hand, but it could serve as a weapon. "Get back!" I shouted at the figures, brandishing the toy like a sword. They merely paused, their laughter softening into a sinister chant, weaving around the room like a predator circling its prey. Suddenly the figures lunged. I swung the train engine with all my might. It connected with one of them, a sickening crack reverberating in the air. For a moment the figure faltered, its form flickering like a faulty light. It let out a shrill cry, and I saw a glimpse of something human in the shadows before it vanished completely. Did I just hurt one of them? That realization fueled my desperation. I had to get my kids out of here. "Chloe! Max! Wake up! You need to come back to me!" I yelled, my voice amplified by belief and motherly instinct. The room shook. Toys rattled, and the walls trembled. The figures retreated slightly, their forms causing the air around them to distort. Chloe blinked, confusion clouding her response. "Mommy?" she repeated, but with a flicker of recognition now. "Get away from them!" I shouted again, my heart divided between protective instinct and fear as I pushed forward. "Come on, we need to go." Max stirred beside Chloe, rubbing his eyes. I can't move." His voice was thick, full of fright. I rushed to them, desperation clawing at me as the figures regrouped, their laughter sharpening once more. I had to break this curse. If I could just reach them. I snatched both of their hands, feeling their warmth against my skin, a reminder of the life we had outside this nightmare. "Hold tight to me. We're leaving now, no matter what." But as I wrenched the door open, a wave of cold air slammed into us. Dark tendrils of shadow surged forward, grasping at my children. "You will never escape," they screeched. I gritted my teeth and tightened my grip. "I won't leave you." Everything shifted. The ground beneath me felt unsteady, and I had only one choice. I yanked the kids back, ready to delve deeper if that's what it took to protect them. "Stay with me, on 3. Before I could count, the shadows lunged, and the screeching grew deafening. I could hear the nursery rhyme blend with their cries, layers of sound wrapping around us, drowning us in confusion and despair. I was losing them. And then everything went dark. I blinked hard, gasping as I tumbled back into the cramped confines of the bathroom where it had all started. The darkness rushed away like a thick fog, revealing the stale air of our home once more. I shivered, the cold tiles against my skin jarring, disorienting. "Chloe, Max," I called, my voice shaky, reality seeming fragile beneath my feet. I braced myself against the sink, heart pounding as I noticed the flicker of daylight creeping through a crack in the window. Without thinking, I pushed myself up, desperate to find my children, feeling the panic clawing at my throat. Rushing out of the bathroom, I hesitated momentarily in the hallway, the silence pressing against my ears. I wanted to scream. I needed to hear them. The house felt different now, the air electric with a mixture of fear and something hopeful. I dashed toward their rooms, shoving their door open. Empty. Breath hitching, I swung around to check the other room. Also empty. My heart raced as I stumbled over to the attic entrance, feeling a compulsion pulling me upward. The pale light warmed my skin as I reached the top and pushed the door open, expecting shadows but finding nothing. Just the eerie stillness. Air stagnant, like time had stopped. Then suddenly a small giggle erupted from behind me. My heart leapt. I swung around. There they were, Chloe and Max at the far end of the attic, seemingly okay, but their faces were pallid, drawn. I could see the remnants of fear lurking in their eyes. My heart softening, I stepped forward. "Mommy," Chloe chirped, her small body rushing into my arms as I knelt, cradling her. "We were playing with Thomas." "Thomas? What do you mean?" I asked, scanning their faces for a hint of fear returning. "What happened?" Max looked at me, brows furrowed. "He was fun, Mommy. He wanted to be our friend." My heart sank. I remembered the drawings, the whispers, the shadows. But what about the dark thing? The laughter? "Thomas wasn't like them," Chloe insisted. "He was sad, and when you got angry, it made him go away." Struggling to parse her words, I stood up, pulling them closer once more. "We need to go. Together." The attic felt suffocating. The remnants of our encounters hung heavy in the air. We moved toward the stairwell, and I felt a chill race up my spine. What had we escaped? Shadows seemed to flicker around us, and beneath the floorboards, I could swear I heard whispers darting in and out of focus. Reaching the living room, a misplaced calm greeted us. The sun streamed through the windows, painting bright patches on the floor. But that warmth felt fragile, as if threatening to shatter any moment. As we stepped outside, the neighborhood appeared almost normal. Neighbors waved vaguely, but their smiles felt strained, as if they were holding back something sinister behind their eyes. I wanted to flee, to run far away, but I couldn't abandon our new home. "Mommy, can we go back to the park?" Max asked, his small voice tugging at my heart. Chloe added, blinking innocently, "Yes, Thomas, maybe just for a little while." I relented. Though uncertainty gnawed at my insides, I couldn't deny them this moment of normalcy. We walked to the nearby park, the sun shining brightly, but it did little to dispel the lingering weight of our shared experience. As we approached the swings, I noticed something on the dusty ground. Another drawing, abandoned and crumpled, depicting that same dark figure. "Mommy?" Chloe inquired, pointing. "What's that?" Despite my instinct to toss it away, I knelt and picked it up. I could almost hear the whispers again, deceptive and alluring. Was it imagination or a warning? I tucked it into my pocket, feeling the weight of unanswered questions pressing heavily. I need time to process. Time to understand what we had just faced in that attic. What we had truly escaped. As we swung, laughter chimed in the air. A sound that felt foreign, yet soothing. But then beyond that peaceful facade came the faintest echo of a familiar voice. Soft and beckoning. "Help me." I turned sharply, scanning faces, but there was nothing. Just the smooth sway of the branches overhead. My breath caught in my throat, a chill sweeping through me. Had it ever truly left? And as the sun began to set, the shadows lengthening once more, I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing in. "Let's go home," I said finally, taking Chloe and Max by the hands. But as darkness curled along the edges of our path, as whispers turned to echoes and shadows beckoned from every corner, I couldn't shake the feeling that our struggles were far from over, and that maybe, just maybe, it never truly did end at all.